Manchester United loanee makes surprise return just 2 weeks after leaving Old Trafford. Dan Gore joined Rotherham on loan for the remainder of the season in the winter transfer window, but he has already returned to Manchester United. Dan Gore has returned to Manchester United to receive treatment on a foot injury. Gore joined Rotherham on loan for the remainder of the season in the winter transfer window and looked sharp when he made his debut for the League One club against Birmingham. The 20-year-old was set to feature in Rotherham's next game against Shrewsbury, but he indicated he'd picked up a foot problem by speaking to the club the night before the clash. Gore is believed to have suffered a hairline foot fracture during a training session to prepare for Shrewsbury and has now returned to Carrington to undergo rehabilitation. The midfielder is expected to be out of action for around a month, and he will return to Rotherham once he is deemed fit enough to train again. "I think that 4 full-time doctors and 8 physios tells you where he should be," said Rotherham boss Steve Evans about Gore returning to United. "We've done that with other loan players in the past. Their progress is quicker because they have more medical backup on hand. He's in a good place there. The medical people say you can have a delayed reaction to it. It's unusual for that to happen, but it can happen. We have to accept that. I saw how much the kid was hurting when he heard he was going to be out for that 4-week period or so. The reaction was genuine. He wants to play. I'm an experienced manager. You get a gut feeling about these things. He's at the stage where, in the words of the coaching staff at Manchester United, he needs to be playing." Gore has suffered a rotten spell of bad luck with injuries. He picked up an injury in his first game on loan with Port Vale last season and subsequently suffered a freak shoulder injury. In a surprising twist, Dan Gore has made a swift return to Manchester United just 2 weeks after leaving for a loan spell at Rotherham. The young midfielder had joined the Championship club on loan for the remainder of the season during the winter transfer window. But due to unforeseen circumstances, he has already made his way back to Old Trafford. The return is a bit of a surprise, especially considering how quickly he settled in at Rotherham. While the specifics of his early return haven't been fully disclosed, it could be due to various reasons. Whether it's an injury, a change in tactical plans, or simply a decision made by Manchester United's management and Ruben Amorim. Regardless of the reason, Gore's return adds more depth to United's squad, which has been stretched thin with injuries and inconsistent form this season. For Gore, the early recall presents an unexpected opportunity. Having initially gone on loan to get regular first-team football, he now faces the challenge of impressing Amorim and finding a role in the senior team. The return could be a sign that the club sees potential in him and believes he's ready for the step up, or it might be a temporary measure to bolster the squad in a difficult period. It's also worth noting that the Premier League is a significant step up in competition compared to the Championship, so Gore could be given a chance to develop further within the intensity of Manchester United's first-team environment. If his loan move was intended for development, this return may help him refine his skills and gain crucial experience within a higher-level setting. With United's squad facing injuries and ongoing struggles this season, it will be interesting to see whether Gore is called upon in the coming weeks to contribute in any capacity, whether that's through match minutes or simply as part of the tactical plans moving forward. Regardless, this unexpected return could be the beginning of an exciting chapter for the young talent. Exactly. Gore's return has certainly raised a few eyebrows, especially given that he seemed to be adapting well to life at Rotherham. The specifics of why the loan has been cut short remain unclear, but there are a few plausible reasons behind this unexpected development. One possible explanation could be an injury that prevented him from featuring regularly, or perhaps Rotherham's staff felt he wasn't quite ready for the level of competition in the Championship. On the other hand, Manchester United's management, especially Ruben Amorim, might have decided that Gore's services are needed back at Old Trafford sooner than anticipated. With a squad that's struggling with injuries and inconsistent form, having a young, versatile player like Gore back could provide a much-needed boost in terms of depth, even if it's just as a potential bench option in the coming weeks. Ruben Amorim can unleash Manchester United's next teenage debutant versus Everton. Ruben Amorim is likely to find his Man United squad stretched again this weekend, and he can turn to another teenager off the bench to help fill the void. Few head coaches or managers turn to their substitutes bench quite as often as Ruben Amorim does, which must have made it all the more difficult for the Manchester United boss to ignore his replacements at Tottenham last weekend. Amorim usually uses all 5 substitutes in a game, and his record since he's been at Old Trafford shows how often he likes to turn to his bench. Until that game at Spurs, he made 90 out of a possible 100 changes in his 20 games in charge, only twice making just 3 in-game alterations. The 40-year-old system demands a high-energy output, and the changes are often about fresh legs. Even in games, he hasn't moved away from his 3-4-2-1 shape at Old Trafford, so switching personnel tend to be about physicality or trying something different. His switches have often worked well, but in North London last weekend, he was hamstrung by what must be the most inexperienced subs bench he has ever seen sat behind him. Victor Lindelof was the only one of the 9 players to have played for the club before, and he hadn't been featured for 2 months. The other 8 players were yet to play for United, and the inexperience on the bench was more remarkable. In the end, Amorim waited until stoppage time to bring on 17-year-old striker Chido Obi, who didn't get a touch of the ball on his professional debut. Amorim should have a little more experience available to him this weekend. Lenny Yoro and Christian Eriksen should be back from illness, and Manuel Ugarte and Toby Collier might have a chance of recovering from the knocks that kept them out of last weekend. But he will still be without Ahmad and Kabi Mainu, and some youthful attacking reinforcements will need to be on the bench. Chido Obi will surely be handed another chance, and Amorim should keep faith with 19-year-old attacking midfielder Jack Moorhouse, who can make an impact off the bench with his ball-carrying skills. Amorim must have been tempted to turn to Moorhouse last week as one of his replacements. The teenager has enjoyed a rapid rise in academy circles this season, scoring 3 times in his last 4 Premier League 2 appearances, including a brace in a superb performance against Southampton in December. He also caught the eye in the National League Cup, a new competition for United's under-21s pitting them against non-league clubs. He scored against Oldham and ran the midfield against Altrincham, regularly driving through the middle of the pitch with the ball to get his side on the attack. Moorhouse made his debut for the under-18s when he was still 15, but his progress has really accelerated this season. He has been involved in some first-team training sessions before being named in the traveling squad for the trip to Tottenham. He didn't get to make his debut last weekend, but if Amorim needs to include him among the replacements this weekend, there is no doubt he is capable of filling one of those number 10 roles. The United head coach wants to protect those young players, and there is a risk in throwing them into a team that is struggling, but Moorhouse might have the skill set to offer something different. Ruben Amorim, the manager of Manchester United, is facing a challenging situation this weekend as he prepares for the upcoming match against Everton. With injuries and suspensions continuing to stretch his squad, Amorim is likely to turn to one of the club's exciting young talents to fill the void. The decision to bring in a teenage debutante could be a key moment in the manager's tactical plans, as he looks to balance the need for experience with the desire to give youth a chance on the big stage. The teenager in question has been impressing in the youth ranks, and Amorim could see this as the perfect opportunity to unleash him on the Premier League stage. While it's not uncommon for managers to call up young players in times of need, this match against Everton could mark a pivotal moment in the youngster's career, taking their first steps in one of the most competitive leagues in the world. Amorim, known for his ability to nurture young talent, has already demonstrated a willingness to promote from within, giving players the chance to prove themselves in high-pressure environments. His philosophy of integrating youth into the first team has been one of the hallmarks of his tenure so far, and this weekend's fixture could further cement his reputation as a manager who trusts his younger players. The teenager being considered for a debut likely brings an exciting blend of raw talent and potential. Known for his pace, technical ability, and fearless approach, the young star could provide something different off the bench, offering a spark when needed. Mason Greenwood makes major Man United reunion decision as paperwork completed before huge move. Manchester United sold Mason Greenwood to Marseille for around £27 million during the summer transfer window after the forward spent last season on loan at Getafe. Mason Greenwood has reportedly completed the necessary paperwork to switch international allegiances from England to Jamaica. Greenwood, 23, can represent the Caribbean country through his paternal grandparents. FIFA rules allow the player to switch because he only played in one competitive match for the Three Lions. Gareth Southgate gave Greenwood his senior England debut as a second-half substitute during a Nations League match away against Iceland in September 2020. At the time, that appearance would have made Greenwood ineligible to play for another national team. But coincidentally, a fortnight later, FIFA's annual Congress approved a rule change to make its regulations less restrictive to players who played in fewer than 4 competitive games for a national team before turning 21. The requisite 3 years a player must wait before switching eligibility passed in early September 2023. 16 months later, the Daily Star reports that Greenwood has switched international allegiances. The Football Association is said to have made it clear to the player that he would not be considered for selection again by England. Manchester United suspended Greenwood in January 2022 after following his arrest on suspicion of rape. 9 months later, he was charged with attempted rape, controlling and coercive behavior, and assault, occasioning actual bodily harm. The Marseille forward denied the charges, which were subsequently dropped by the Crown Prosecution Service. Getafe signed the player on a season-long loan last season, and then this summer, he left the club permanently to join Marseille. The forward now appears to have changed national teams too. The former United assistant coach, Steve McLaren, became Jamaica's head coach this summer and revealed at his unveiling that he had a conversation with Greenwood at Carrington before both left the club. Greenwood's decision lines up a reunion with the former United assistant, and they will both now be hoping for success with the Jamaica national team. Mason Greenwood's future has been a major talking point since his departure from Manchester United, and the young forward has now made a significant decision regarding his next move. After a season-long loan at Getafe and Manchester United's official sale of Greenwood to Marseille for a reported fee of £27 million, the move is set to be a major step in his career. Greenwood's time at Manchester United was marked by great potential and high expectations, but also controversy, which led to a lengthy period of uncertainty surrounding his future at the club. Following the conclusion of his loan spell at Getafe, where he showed glimpses of the talent that once made him one of the brightest young prospects in world football, Greenwood seemed ready to take the next step in his career. The decision to move to Marseille is seen as a fresh start for Greenwood. The French club has a history of nurturing talented players and providing them with a platform to perform in a competitive league. Greenwood, who is still only 23, will be looking to rebuild his career, regain his confidence, and focus on getting back to his best form. Reports suggest that the paperwork for the deal has already been completed, and the move is set to be finalized soon. This transfer marks a huge shift for both Greenwood and Manchester United. The Red Devils will likely be pleased to see the issue resolved, as it clears the way for them to focus on their current squad, while also financially benefiting from the sale. Meanwhile, Marseille will be hoping that Greenwood's talent and ability will help them push for higher positions in League One and potentially make an impact in European competitions. This deal, however, still raises questions about the broader implications for Greenwood's career and future in top-level football. Many will be closely watching how he adapts to his new environment in Marseille and whether he can rediscover the form that saw him become one of the most promising talents in England just a few years ago. For Greenwood, This is undoubtedly a pivotal moment, one that could shape the next chapter of his career. The player now faces the task of proving himself on the pitch and demonstrating that he has the mental and physical readiness to succeed at a high level once again. With a fresh start in Marseille, Greenwood's journey is far from over. It may be the beginning of a much-anticipated footballing revival.